welcome everyone to another little tidbit of inspiration, a little nugget of knowledge, I guess, if you think you're into that. And we're 76 days away from the World Cup. And for those of you keeping score, I guess the lead up, the build up to this World Cup has been nothing short of being swimmingly craptacular, unless you're into swimming in a crap and you think that's great. And if you look at how things have been able to play out in this tournament or leading up to this tournament, there's certain things that really have been quite puzzling to understand. But I guess you see, Mati Batshuayi of Borussia Dortmund said it pretty much eloquently. I guess it was just my imagination. And to be right, I think it was his imagination. It was his imagination that he must have heard it. It also must have been his imagination to think that UEFA even cared about racism, and it must have been the imagination that something was going to be done about it. And he's absolutely right, because it just seems that way as far as things are concerned. Obviously in Russia, and you heard it the other day when you saw the Minister of Sport of France, Laura Flessel, talking about it and saying, hey, racism really doesn't belong on a football pitch. We have to act in unison at a European and international level to put an end to this inadmissible action. But then you hear the other side, and what logic that really makes. You hear Russian national team coach Stanislav Cherchesov talking about it. And he goes and says, I don't think we have racism on a scale that needs to even be fought. It's not a problem. It's not something. Now, here's my question to Mr. Cherchesov. What is his scale of when racism needs to be fought? So if there's a little bit of racism, that's okay. I mean, spice of life, why not? Every so often, a banana gets thrown at a player, big deal. Every time you hear monkey chants, that's not a problem. I mean, it gives a little bit more freedom and it's more banter, that's what they're talking about as far as being able to have this good time at a stadium and that soccer culture and that football culture that, Russians are famous for. That's the problem. That's what they're infamous for in some cases. Mind you, it doesn't happen everywhere. It's just the negative aspect of it, and it's not giving the best image, it's not giving the best look to a World Cup that's already having image problems to begin with. So when you start seeing that, and then UEFA really saying that there's nothing going on, there was nothing wrong, nothing to see here, bye, go somewhere else. That's the big problem. UEFA not following through after saying, racism, there's zero tolerance, and, there's no place for racism in the game. Racism needs to be fought against, and racism needs to be something that we have to take care of and try and abolish. But then racism occurs, and they hide and run away and go as far away as possible to not make a decision and not be able to get caught in the crossfire. There's people that believe in that camp. People think that, hey, that's a good thing. But then also the player has to be responsible. The player has to go out and face it. I had a colleague of mine that I worked with and I respected a great deal that would go and say something like that. Say, well, you know what? No, the player also has to know how to manage it. Now, my question to many of those people that come out and give that answer is, how do you manage it? How if you were to do it, how would you do it? And somebody, well, I turn the cheek. That's good to say, but not everyone responds the same way. Not everyone has the maturity to respond that same way. So you can't go and tell me or anyone else, or anyone individual for that matter, that's gone through that type of situation, as deplorable and as horrible as that may be, to tell them how to react. You are not that person. You haven't gone through their plight. You haven't gone through those types of situations to be able to tell them how to manage themselves. I don't have empathy for those types of people that go and tell you, hey, this is how you have to live and this is how you have to react when you are discriminated upon. That is the biggest issue that's going on as far as racism is concerned. It's not the actual act of racism itself. It's in the reaction that everybody else turns the fans, the people that committed this, into the victims because the person that reacted inappropriately in their eyes didn't react in a manner that should have been suitable. So if a person gets angry and goes and lashes out, they're just as bad as the one that runs away and cries and wants that game to be suspended. Or the one that doesn't get bothered that much and wants to continue playing. Everyone has a different way of dealing with that type of thing. And to me, that's incorrect to go in and start to criticize a person, a victim, for reacting the way they did. Unless they turn violent and then they go and and hurt somebody, then yeah, that's wrong. But there is no one way to deal with that type of thing. That's where this whole thing of racism ends up being a problem. People that haven't dealt with it, people that have never lived through it, people that have never experienced it, going and telling those individuals that have lived and experienced it throughout their lives how to deal with it. So people, there's no empathy, and then there's no system of being able to try and punish those individuals that are causing the racism and acting in a racist manner. That is the problem right now. And that's where these types of things are occurring. Well, UEFA goes and fine. And mind you, I don't want to pick on UEFA, and I want to pick on Russia. We're 76 days away, and that's why we have to focus there. But there's issues that have gone throughout other parts of the world, and it will continue. It's part of the human state, unfortunately, to act that way. That throughout history, the color of someone's skin or the descendants of a person over another ends up being a means of trying to make a person better or worse. I came from this part of the world. My skin color is this, my skin color is that, and that's what makes me better than you or you worse than me. That, unfortunately, is part of the human state, and that, unfortunately, is something that will take many more generations to try and fix. And I'm not sure how it's going to happen. But in terms of football, in terms of the World Cup, this is going to be a topic that will be constantly burning in many people's ears, and is going to be a topic of conversation for many months to come if there's not something that's done about it quickly. Before I go, I wanted to ask you for one favor. I'm not one that usually asks for a lot of favors, but here it goes. I want you to subscribe to Beyond the Pitch, as well as leave us a rating, leave us some comments, leave us some feedback as to what we're doing good, what you love, what you don't like, what you think we can improve on, and whatever else you want to put on there. 5 stars is awesome. 1 star is perfect as well. Not a big deal. Tell us what we need to improve on. I mean, that we can always improve. I know we're awesome, but we can also be awesomer. Why not? So make sure you go and subscribe on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, whatever audio platform you prefer using, go there, because we are there. So make sure you join us on all or any other platforms that we are on, and make sure that you're listening and keeping up to date with the best football content that you can have out there, as we will always be interviewing the best pundits, players, coaches, personalities of the beautiful game. Make sure you subscribe, guys. I hope you do, and I hope you enjoy all that Phil and I put out there.